Good evening and welcome to the Saints Insider Postgame Show. After the Saints lose 23-3 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and fall to 1-7, and it was about as dreary as that score makes it sound, Jim Derry. I'm Zach Ewing. He's Jim Derry. This is the Saints Insider Postgame Show, and we are here to dissect this with you, taking your comments and questions live. We do, of course, have the very interesting development of Tyler Shough replacing Spencer Rattler a little more than midway through the third quarter of this one. And so the rookie Tyler Shough gets his first extended action. But other than that, this was just pretty dreary from the New Orleans Saints.
You know, at some point towards the end, and, 3 o'clock games, we're here all day. I mean, you get here probably earlier than you need to. It was our first 3 o'clock game in a while. And, you looked over and towards some point in the fourth quarter and it feels like preseason. And honestly, I kind of think that's where the Saints are now. I mean, it's not just because of the record. I don't think anyone had delusions of grandeur that they would get back into it, but it just felt like as well as the defense played in the first half and they couldn't get anything going and just roadblock after roadblock. And the whole second half, the emptying of the dome, and we'll show pictures of it tomorrow on Datitude, but it feels like the rest of the season is now preseason, and it's kind of here we are again, back to where we were at the end of last year. And there was no competitiveness with this offensive side of the football team, in my opinion. The receivers were they didn't show up. They were embarrassed. They were an embarrassment today. The entire receiving core of this football team was an embarrassment. And, Spencer Rattler did the best he could. Tyler Shough came in and did the best he could. And again, I thought the defense did a whale of a job with one of the goal line stands, the best goal line stands this team has had in years. And it's all wasted. And now you're going down a rabbit hole of who knows what the heck the second half of the season is going to be. I
mean, it was a weird game because the Saints turned the ball over 4 times. Really could have been a competitive game. This is, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? But, if you take away the 4 turnovers, the Saints defensively deserved to be in this game. And there's no better example of that than what you're talking about. It was lightning fast first quarter. The first quarter was over in less than half an hour, which is almost impossible if you consider 15 minutes of game time plus 4 TV commercials. How does a quarter end in half an hour? But it did. And then the Bucs get down to the 1-yard line early second quarter. Saints stop them on 4 straight runs. The dome is as loud as I had heard it all year long, even though it was empty. Yeah, it was barely, maybe little more than, maybe 2/3 full, but some of that was Tampa Bay fans. So all of a sudden you're going, well, we might have kind of an upset watch on our hands. 2 plays later, Spencer Rattler throws a ball that gets tipped up. Was it Robinson? I can't even remember the Saints defense or the Bucs defensive end who tipped that ball up to himself. Trucks Spencer Rattler on the way to the end zone. 7-0 Bucs anyway, even with the goal line stand. 7-3 at halftime, but the Saints never really threatened to get back in it.
No, and again, it's like there are too many players on this team that look like they just didn't want to be here. And if you don't want to be here, then just sit on the bench. And it's just, I don't know what was going on. Maybe the trade talk with Shaheed affected his play today because he was the worst of the bunch. I mean, Juwan Johnson couldn't catch a cold. Shaheed, not only did he not catch balls, but when he dropped them and fumbled and kind of flipped it to the other team. I mean, not intentionally, obviously, but so I don't know where he was. I don't know what the thinking is. And, watching Kellen Moore's body language as we could see it from the TV screen, it's as a 1-7 rookie head coach as one might imagine because he doesn't have any answers. But I got to be honest, Vince Lombardi could come back from the dead, and I'm not sure could find answers for a team that is just as listless as this one was today.
Yeah, not good. The Saints 4 turnovers. You had a Spencer Rattler fumble on a scramble. That was on their very first drive. Then you had the Rattler interception. It was tipped, which sometimes we say these tip drill interceptions are unlucky, but I mean, the guy was right in front of his face. He kind of threw it at him. So I don't know that you can kind of you have to blame Rattler for that one too. Then you had a Shaheed fumble. And then when Tyler Shough came in the game, he threw what went into the rule book as an interception, but it was really Chris Olave getting the ball ripped away from him. And as you said, Olave wasn't good. We got a couple of comments here. DLP 2600, Olave, Shaheed, and Juwan Johnson can't catch the ball. Yeah, I mean,
they couldn't today.
Shaheed was wide open for a touchdown, and Tyler Shough missed him early in the fourth quarter. There were some. I'm not trying to blame everything on the receivers, but they were doing these guys no favors today.
It's just look, and again, I know we haven't mentioned this, and we can now, but look, they're playing with here we go. When I say here we go again, it feels like they're in the same position with their offensive line almost as they were at the end of last year. I mean, you got your two tackles, Ruiz, in there, but just missing Eric McCoy. And I told you this during the game. I just don't know if you can quantify how important the center position is on a football team. And, you know, Rattler, I think, had been used to a little bit more time. And, again, I'm not trying to defend him or anyone else on this team, but, you know, he just didn't have the time today. And Shough didn't either when he came in. And it's going to be like that the rest of the season. And, you know, they're just charging up the middle. And I think you're seeing the blueprint for teams that play this team going forward. They're just going to bull rush guys right up the middle. If you can stop them, great. If you can't, you can't. And more than likely, the Saints aren't going to be – they're going to have to throw a lot of quick, short passes.
Yeah, and that's been the game plan. And Saints were sacked 3 times. I thought both quarterbacks actually did a pretty good job of evading some of the rush and keeping that from being worse. But certainly not having a Pro Bowl center in there, an all-pro center, not just Pro Bowl center, an all-pro center in Eric McCoy hurts you.
And your guard play is just not good.
Guard play has been subpar all season.
Terrible.
Receivers were not good today. Tight ends were not good today. And so then you get down to evaluating these quarterbacks. And let's dig into this, Jim, because, you know, I was on your show on Friday, and I said I did not see a chance that Tyler Shough was going to get inserted into this game. I was wrong. You were right. Although you said you thought it was unlikely too. But that is what happened. Spencer Rattler gets benched essentially in the third quarter. Team is turning the ball over. I don't know that everything was his fault. Obviously, there was a couple of plays that were. I just think it was more Kellen Moore saying, maybe Doug Nussmeier also saying, like, you know what, we just need something to change. It's time.
I think by that point, he had lost all confidence. I don't know whether it was in himself or whether it was in the people around him or a little bit of both. I thought he was fine. You know, he fumbled the football on the first drive. It happens. But then, you know, the interception didn't help him. But when he kept getting bull rushed and he couldn't get any scores going and all they could do is dink and dunk, I think you could see his body language. And I think that was probably part of what led to him coming out of this football game today. And I don't know how that conversation went. You know, I told you this, and no matter what I personally think is best for this football team, when you have to make a change, I can't imagine what it's like to go to someone who's worked his tail off his entire career to be an NFL quarterback, has a chance, and you go to him and say, we're going to pull you. Because, I mean, maybe we'll find out from one of our guys in the locker room. It's just going to be one of the first questions, whether this is a permanent thing or just today. It's probably not going to get answered. Can't imagine that Kellen Moore's probably not going to answer that question.
Well, it's interesting
today.
that you say that because Mario Carlone has a comment here. He only took him out for a wake-up call, but start Rattler next week. If he continues to turn the ball over, then play Tyler.
That's not what I would do.
At some point, you have to turn it over to Shough permanently. I don't know if that's this week.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to answer the question. If he does, then I think that means he's going to go back to Rattler and say, and he like Mario said. But I think he's going to. My guess is he's going to evade the question today. He's probably going to evade the question tomorrow, and then early, you know, maybe Tuesday on the off day or Wednesday or whatever day it is, then they'll make the decision. But I just don't. Look, you and I talked about it. I think once you make that move, it's not like you made the move with 5 minutes left to go. You made the move in the middle of the third quarter.
There was technically, it was 17-3.
Correct.
The Saints could have won the game.
Theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, if Shough comes in and plays really well, the Saints could have won that game.
I personally think that, and this time I think it, not just I think, it's not only what I think should happen, because I've thought that Shough should be the quarterback for weeks now. But I actually think it's going to happen now. I don't think you put Shough in to go back the other way. It's possible, and the Rams is it's just a really tough place to get your first NFL start. But I've been saying for weeks, I don't care where it is, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go. Let's see what we got. You got to know what you got. You got 9 games left. 9 games before the next NFL draft. And you have to know if you need to draft a quarterback. And the Saints don't know. They might think they know the answer, but they don't know the answer because the one that's been quarterback is definitely not the answer. And you don't know if the one behind him is or not. You got to find out.
You're right. The Rams have a young defense. Very good pass rush. It will be difficult. After that, however, get Carolina, not a great defense.
They showed that today.
Then you have the bye week. Then you have the Falcons in here who have played better on defense, but I don't think anyone is shaking from facing that defense.
They got whooped up by the Miami Dolphins.
Then you have Miami. Then you have the Bucs again. You have the Jets, the Titans. Like the Panthers again. Like this schedule sets up for some confidence building for Tyler Shough at some point.
And this is why, even though it's not the greatest place to start him this coming week, I would like to see him get in there and get some experience because, like you say, look, the Saints are going to win next week. I think if you and I had, we had
the Saints are going to lose next week.
They're going to lose next week. I think if you and I both had one knockout pick left and it was all for all the marbles and we could pick any team we want, no one else can pick them, you and I are both picking the Rams. I don't even need to look at the rest of the schedule. But that being said, I would like to see him get a little experience before the Saints have that chance to make, and I'm not going to say a run because, the other teams are saying the same thing. But I think the Saints have a chance to win a couple games and try to get themselves feeling a little bit better about where they are because right now they're probably about as, after you go through what they went through, get knocked down by the Bears, and I mean whooped up on by the Bears, and now you are here back at home and you get whooped up again with no life. You score 3 points. I think you need to find something to feel good about yourself, and it's probably not going to be next week.
Going to go through some comments here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show as we await our writers coming out from the press conferences and locker room for their insight. Let's see. Brian Russell says, Shaheed, trade him. Jawan Johnson, trade him for anything you can get. Rattler, a backup. Brian Cavett says, looks like Moore has lost the team. Robert Dickerson, Rattler, and Shough are the same QB. They did look a little similar tonight. I don't know. Again, this is Tyler Shough's first. He was in for one series in Seattle in mop-up duty. That doesn't really count. This was his first competitive action. It's too early to say that on Tyler Shough.
No one, and I mean no one, not Tyler Shough's mama, not Kellen Moore, not me, not you, not anyone watching the football game could possibly know how good or bad Tyler Shough is. You need to see him in game situation, and I'm not talking about a quarter and a half of a game that was basically lost. So we know what we have in Rattler because you've seen him. He's now 1-13, 1-14 if you count the half that he played against the Commanders and they lost that game. So I think you have enough to know. You have enough big enough sample size of Spencer Rattler. You don't have but I agree. I don't personally think that Tyler Shough's going to be the answer either. But I need to see it. We all need to see it to know whether we're right or whether we're wrong. Again, what's most important? 9 games left before the 2026 NFL draft, and you have no idea who your future quarterback is, whether it's one of these guys, whether it's Tyler Shough, whether it's someone you need to draft, whether it's potentially even a free agent. The free agent market's not going to be very good at quarterback next year or whatever it is. But you got to find that answer out in the next 9 games.
Yeah, you can't see the comments, Jim, but Brandon Kraft echoing what you're saying. We've seen enough of Rattler. It's time to see if Shough is the guy, or do we draft a QB in April? I want to go back to a comment by Brian Cavett. By Chad Gage. This is back early in the show where he says,
hello, Chad.
Yeah, defense thought looked good. Let's talk about the defense for a little while. This was, I thought, by far their best game of the season. Now Tampa Bay's got a lot of injuries on offense. I think their starting guard is out, as well as Bucky Irving. And, of course, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are both out as well. So it's a limited Tampa Bay offense. They still look, 212 yards. You did some work against this offense.
It's amazing what an NFL defense can do when they get some bulletin board material and get fired up. And Baker Mayfield going shooting off his mouth during the week as he don't like the Saints. Guess what? We don't like you either. So I guarantee you there was a lot of chatter going on the field, and Chase Young had something to – Chase Young played a monster football game today, and no one could say any different. He was fantastic today. He showed – now, look, it's one game, so you can't get too fired up. He missed the first, 5 or 6 games of the season. But he was a man today and shows you a glimpse of what he could be if he can stay on the field. But look, again, it was a defense that was possessed, and that's what they played like. They were ticked off, and just think if they played like that every week, it just goes to show you they have potential to play like that every week. I don't know if it's that they don't care enough or if they don't have the right people or whatever it is, but they need to show up like that every week.
And the pass rush caused a lot of problems. Baker Mayfield was sacked 5 times. He also was forced into some incompletions because of pressure. Chase Young was a man possessed.
Rasee was in there. Granderson
in the first half. And even in the second half, like the Bucs had short field after short field. You kept not only forcing field goals, but forcing long field goals. Chase McLaughlin kept making them. If he misses a couple of those field goals, Saints still have a chance late in this game, basically solely because of their defense. I think the
Rumpf made a big play on the fourth down.
Did the Bucs finish with less than 100 yards? They finished with 124 yards passing, so not quite less than 100, but 88 yards rushing, 124 yards passing. Their only offensive touchdown came after the Saints defense damn near had another goal line stand. They forced 4th and goal and Sean Tucker barely gets into the end zone on 4th and goal. So, this defense played as well as you could possibly expect an NFL defense to play, and you still lost the game by 20 points.
Well, I mean, for them to not get blown out next week, and I don't mean just to win. I think for them not to get blown out next week in Los Angeles, they're going to have to play at the bare minimum as well. Hopefully, Matthew Stafford will say something really negative about Chase. Maybe he'll call out Chase Young's mom or something. That's you got to hope, right? I mean, you're gonna hope. Yeah, I met her once in a restaurant. She's a terrible lady. That's the only thing you can hope for next week. You can hope that it happens because it's the only way they're going to stop the Rams next week. And the offense needs to figure a few things out as well.
All right, this one's for you, Jim. Doe 38-59. Who dat Dairy? Worst game of the year. No faith in Groupie for long kick attempt. Drops, fumbles, balls taken from receivers, all at home. Got to keep first pick. I won't say the T word out of respect, so I'm sure you appreciate that. But I was just on the website. I'm going to say the T word, tankathon.com, looking at the NFL draft order. As of this moment, the New Orleans Saints with a strength of schedule of 496 and a 1-7 record, same as the New York Jets and Tennessee Titans. If the season ended today, New Orleans Saints have the number 1 pick. It would be the second time in their history.
Norm, you got your finger on the bleep button? Do you have the bleep button ready? Who gives a bleep? Okay. I don't care where the Saints draft.
Number 1 pick.
It's the Sunday before Halloween. Nobody cares where the Saints are going to draft. Even if they draft first, who's going to say they get it right? Just play some good football, and so I don't have to watch this crap anymore. How about that?
All the kids playing just turned their head around.
Good for them.
This guy cursing.
I said bleep.
The Saints. The Saints do control their own destiny for the number 1 pick. They play both the Jets and the Titans, so you lose out, and you have that top pick for the second time in your history. Look, I hate it as much as you do. It's not even November yet, but that's a little bit where we're at with this.
Let me just get this in, because whenever someone brings up that word, I have to say it, especially for people who don't know me and never heard me say this before. You know what losing gets you, losers? It makes you a loser. Nothing else. Losing does nothing else for you. Now we can move on. I feel much better now.
Yeah. And look, we're all in a mood, okay? LSU is on the brink of firing Brian Kelly.
Football.
The Pelicans are maybe on the brink of firing Willie Green. The Saints aren't going to fire Kellen Moore, but they just replaced their quarterback, and they're 1-7. It is for South Louisiana sports. It hasn't been this bad in a long time.
And Friday night, I do play-by-play on Friday nights, and the game that I called this week was 49-0. So that's what kind of week it's been for me for football. It has been an awful
John Sumrall and Tulane football. A lot of people are counting on you to keep things interesting.
John Sumrall's got the only shot in heck to make us at least enjoy the rest of the season.
Maybe we'll turn this into a Tulane postgame show.
Okay.
Saints actually out first down the Bucs 17-14.
Out-yarded them too.
Out-yarded them 275-212. By the way, if you're counting at home, Tyler Shough 10 first downs. Spencer Rattler had 7. I know that's not totally fair.
I was not counting at home or here in the dome.
Spencer Rattler finished 15 of 21 for 136 yards and the interception. He was sacked 3 times. Tyler Shough 17 of 30.
He threw 30 passes in a quarter and a half?
Passes and 1
Is
interception.
That real?
And he was sacked 2 times.
He threw 30 passes in a quarter and a half?
Well, like 10 of them were on that last drive.
Still.
So,
wow.
The deepest the Saints got into Bucs territory all day was the 15-yard line there on that final drive. And Shough is sacked at the end. A very fitting finish to just a very bad day of football for the Saints.
I'm going to say that, and I said this, I don't remember what day. They're all the shows are running together now. By the way, Datitude Podcast, shameless plug, tomorrow morning, Monday. We're talking about LSU and the Saints. Unless Brian Kelly gets fired, then we might be talking all about LSU. We'll have to wait and see. But this season feels, and I've been through a lot of seasons. I'm an old man. I've been watching Saints football since the first game I ever saw in person was at Tulane Stadium. That's how old I am. So this season feels a lot like 1999 and the final season of Ditka. And I know this isn't the one and only season of Kellen Moore, and I know he's coming back, and I'm not really blaming things on him. He was dealt the cards that he knew what he was getting into when he came here. And it's exactly what I said it would be before, exactly what I thought it would be. It's not good. It feels like 1999. And to get out of something like this, you have to make massive changes. And it's just the frustrating thing. Again, I'm saying this, I'm doing what I said don't do. on the Sunday before Halloween. But there's going to be so many changes. I want to start seeing players that we don't know who they are. I want to see Danny Stutzman in there.
He's been a little more playing time. Devin Neal got some run today with
I want to see
Miller
more
out for
Devin Neal, and you're probably going to see a whole lot of Devin Neal. I mean, was this Alvin Kamara's final day?
Technically the trade deadline is after the Rams game, but certainly this was the last home game before the trade deadline. We could start to see some movement. I don't think Alvin Kamara gets traded if I had to guess, but you never know.
50-50,
November 4th is the trade deadline. That's a week from Tuesday.
Look,
so
if you love Alvin Kamara, you should root for him to be traded. Do the man a favor. Get him the hell out of here and let him go finish his career somewhere where he's going to win, have a chance to win something. And let him go finish his career in the playoffs. It won't be this year probably. He's probably still got one more year left after this one. But man, do him I know he doesn't really want to leave, but I think if he left, he would be happy and tell you thank you later on. Do him a favor and get him out of here. It's just it's brutal.
It's the Chargers and Seahawks. There's some good teams that need a running back.
There's quite a few teams that could use. I don't know what Seahawks. They got Charbonnet and Walker.
Saquon Barkley's hurt.
Eagles. There you go.
I don't know how long he's out for, but Saquon Barkley left today's game hurt. Let's see. Brian Russell says draft a new QB, and if Kellen Moore doesn't get a new OC, he can go too.
He's the OC. Kellen Moore's the OC.
Chill, Brian. Exactly. We're not there yet.
You can't look. We don't know anything about this. You just don't know enough about this coaching staff yet. I've heard so many people.
There's been some negatives.
You know how many times I heard the 3-4 doesn't work after like week 3, week 4, the Saints. You don't know that.
Worked fine today.
It was fine today. I thought the defense was good. You just don't know. It takes a team. They're not going to come in here and do what Sean Payton did and go to the NFC Championship the year after Katrina hit and they finally came back home and they had divine intervention. This doesn't work that way in real life. I mean, it happens once in a lifetime. And this is not a once in a lifetime kind of organization right now. They need massive change. It's not like the 2006 Saints. This team is like the 1999, maybe the 1997 Saints. Maybe go back to the mid-90s when coulda, woulda, shoulda happened. They need massive changes. And this is like a 2, 3, 4 year rebuild. Don't start getting on the coaches. They got so much work to do, and they're only playing with the cards they've been dealt.
That mid to late 90s, also the last truly bad era of LSU football.
Sure was.
So it does feel a little bit like we're partying like it was 1999.
You know, interesting they say that. I said this on the show earlier in the week. 1999, Ditka led to Jim Haslett and the first ever Saints playoff victory. 1999 was Jerry DiNardo, and 2000 was Nick Saban. So there's hope. There is hope, and that's really where you are right now. You just you want hope, and that's where you are.
What do you emphasize this week in practice if you're Kellen Moore?
You know, I think
I have my answer. I'm curious to know.
I think in practice this week, you need to do your best job. And I know this is easier said than done, but you really need to do your best job to hit a reset button in some sort of way and say, look, guys, we're 1-7. And don't sugarcoat it. Tell them they're 1-7. They know they're 1-7, but openly embrace 1-7. Say this is what we are, and we're going to try to get better week after week. And I know it's cliche, but I really think that it's true. I don't think this team has given up on anybody. Again, I thought the defense even towards the end, even when it was, you were joking saying, well, they're not going to care now. Well, they did. They cared. I thought all the way to the end.
Teddy Bridgewater came in and he got nothing.
He did. He got nothing, and none of them did. And I thought even the offensive players that were out there, I don't think it was for a lack of trying. So you need to figure out a scheme as best you can to avoid your pitfalls. And what that is going to involve, a lot of what the Saints were doing in the first 2 weeks. And I said, let Spencer Rattler be free. Well, I'm going to say the same about Tyler Shough. You're going to have to do a lot of little short, intermittent passes and have to hope your guys catch the ball. And look, Rashid had a bad day. And
Jawan Johnson a bad day.
Jawan Johnson had another bad day.
Olave didn't have a good day.
Olave was okay.
Olave had one nice catch.
Olave got double teamed all day, and so they couldn't throw him the ball really.
Particularly that one where he gets the ball ripped away. That can't happen.
For sure. You're right.
I mean, he's a good player. He just didn't have. None of them had a very good day on the receiving corps. My answer is similar to yours, by the way, as far as practice this week. I want to tear this thing down and build it back up with some fundamentals. Let's get some attention to details on offense. I mean, you can do it on defense too, because tackling hasn't been great this year. Maybe they did do that. The defense, again, very good this week. You're going to be facing a much different test next week on the road. Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, don't know if Puka Nacua is supposed to be back next week for the Rams. They were on their bye this week.
Also, by the way, I'm reading here that Kellen Moore said the team needed, quote, a spark, but did not commit towards a starter for next week. So that leads me to believe that it will be Shough.
I think he just hasn't told anybody. He's got to talk to these guys
Correct.
before he announces it in the media.
Yeah, and if it was
we'll know tomorrow.
If it was going to be Rattler, it's easy to say, okay, well, we just wanted to have a change up and put Shough in. We're going back to Rattler next week. I think it's a lot easier to do that than to say, like you said, you need to sit him down and talk to him and say, look, we're making this permanent or at least semi-permanent.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty big sign that it's going to be Tyler Shough next week.
And if it is Tyler Shough next week,
temper your enthusiasm.
Well, yes, that is true. But I also think there's no going back on this, barring injury. If now Shough gets injured, that's one thing. You've got Rattler's the guy. You're not going to put Jake Haener in there. But if Shough stays healthy, he's going to be the guy for the rest of the season, I think.
You and I talked, as we do each Friday on my show at 11 a.m. Central Time. You and I were making predictions for the season, and I threw out a number, and I said over/under starts by both Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler, meaning they would both start at least a minimum of X amount of games. I put the over/under at 5.5, and I think you and I both said over. And here we are, and Spencer Rattler has now started with
8 games,
and
7.5 he played. Yeah.
So I think there's an excellent chance, again, barring injury. And we said barring injury 5.5, that Tyler Shough will now get 9 games. And look, again, if for no other reason, you are 1-7. You have there's I'm not going to say 0.0, but it's about 0.01% chance you're going to go to the playoffs or have a winning record. Let's be realistic, okay? So I think everybody says 0.0. I'm trying to get away from that as much as I can. The point is, you need to see what you have in the future. There's only one way to do that. Can he do it? I don't know. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. Maybe he has to do it without, if Kamara gets traded, if Brandon Cooks or Shaheed or both gets traded, and this team may look very different 2 weeks from now. We don't even know the answer to that.
Yeah, and I think the reason you want that runway with Tyler Shough is because you want to see if there is some growth. Because he's probably going to, you said temper your enthusiasm, he's probably going to struggle if he starts against the LA Rams next week. He may struggle in Carolina the following week. But in December, when he's playing the Jets and Titans and, maybe even the more difficult teams, the Bucs again, does he show some growth from that? Yeah. And then that's when you say, okay, we don't necessarily need to spend our top 5 pick on a quarterback because we see positive signs. Okay, so a couple of comments here. Brandon Kraft says Loomis will blow the 1-1, meaning the number 1 pick in the draft. Robert, Saints need a new person to pick the players, namely the general manager. This year's draft class looks like it has some promise.
So does the one before that.
Yeah,
look,
they did have some bad drafts in there.
You could have had who's the best general manager you can think of right now? Whoever that was, if that general manager would have come in here 2 years ago, you'd probably still be in the same boat you're in right now. I'm just saying.
I'm taking the Eagles, Howie Roseman, because he just fleeces everybody.
If you brought Howie Roseman in here 2 years ago, you'd probably be with the cap situation they're in, which is a huge chunk of Loomis's fault. But if you would have brought in Howie, then what would we say? They'd still be blamed. What's always, I don't know. Just yeah. It's frustrating.
Doe 38.
A lot of people's fault.
Doe 3859 says Kellen got to bench some folks for poor performance. Got to be some accountability. Look, you only got 53 guys on the roster. 5 of them have to be inactive. That leaves you 48. You got 3 specialists. So you got like 1 backup at every position.
Who are you going to bench?
I mean, are you putting Mason Tipton, Devon Vele, and I don't even know who else.
I mean, Devon Vele was like probably the best receiver out there today.
Velas Jones out there at receiver. It's just hard to do that.
Are you
going
to bench some offensive linemen? The problem is you can't bench guys. There's nobody behind them. Now I do want to see some of the younger players again, the Danny Stutzmans of the world. We're going to see more of Devin Neal. I want to see Devin Neal carry the ball 12 or 14 times in a game. I want to see Vele out there and have him have 5 or 6 or even 7 targets. So yeah, that part of it I agree with. But look, you can't. It's not like college football where you got 80, 90 players on a roster, sometimes more than that.
You can't make a line change, really.
No, and you have to go out and put forth your best effort. And your best effort, a lot of times, is with the people that you have, unfortunately.
All right.
There are guys that I want to see for sure.
We are rolling along on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Tampa Bay 23, New Orleans 3, your final score. Again, your starting quarterbacks or your two quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler, 15 of 21, 136 and a pick. Tyler Shough, 17 of 30, 128 and a pick. Big difference there. Rattler had more yards per attempt, 6.5 to 4.3, but Rattler's pick was a pick six. Shough's pick really wasn't his fault. It was Chris Olave getting the ball ripped away from him. I don't know. Again, too small of a sample size to say anything for sure. What were your impressions of how Tyler Shough looked?
Like a deer in the headlights. I thought he was fine. He looked a lot like Spencer Rattler looked when he came in last year, and just kind of was fine when he would just like quickly throw the ball and not think. And it's almost the don't think me, just throw. And we kind of chuckled that there was one play where he kind of like tried to get out of had maybe an opening to run to the left, and he tripped over his own feet.
Decided to slide, and instead he just kind of fell.
That didn't work too well. In fact, I think it's the title slide picture here today. But I thought he was okay. I mean, for a first, what can you tell from a quarter and a half? So
I realizing I'm asking you to jump to conclusions, I want you to jump to conclusions. Okay. That's kind of the idea. But
I think this. I think I've seen enough to know that I want to see what he can do going forward. And I think that the only way that it makes any kind of sense whatsoever, again, I'm not saying this to be mean. People who know me, people who have watched me, have known that I've thought that I've never thought that Spencer Rattler was a future for this team. Okay, so I want that to be clear. I want it to be out there when I offer the following. I think the only possible way it makes any sense whatsoever to go back to Spencer Rattler at any point besides barring injury is that if Shough just stinks that bad and you're doing what you can do to just get out of the season. Because honestly, the next 9 games to me are nothing more than a tryout to see who's going to be the future of this team and who's not. It's nothing else. It literally is nothing else. I mean, I don't care. I don't want to hear anybody saying, they should lose on purpose. They're going to lose games on their own. They don't need to lose on purpose. I don't agree with losing on purpose. I never have. I've said that 10 minutes ago. Just go out there, do your best. And I want to see people auditioning for jobs. And unfortunately, that's where this team is for a second consecutive year. And it stinks. And it's a lot longer this year because they were only doing that after Carr got knocked out last year. That's what last year became after the 10th game of the year. Here we are in game number 9, about to go to game number 9, and we're saying it a little bit earlier this year. But to me, that's what the rest of the season is. It's an audition, and that's all I care about. We need evaluations.
It is 7:00 in New Orleans. LSU has called a team meeting for tonight, according to Pete
boy.
of Sports Illustrated. So some movement up in Baton Rouge. To your point, Jim, one thing about the Saints having a top 5 pick, and I understand you're not here to tank or anything, but I mean, this is the reality, is they're more likely than not
to have it anyway.
A top 5 pick. That doesn't just mean you get that top 5 pick. That means you also are picking again in the 30s. It means you're also picking again in the 70s. Like, you get 3 of the top 75 picks in the draft. So knowing who is going to be part of the future and who isn't directs where you go in the draft.
Sure.
And so, look, no one wants to be talking. We're 6 months from the draft. Nobody wants to be talking about it yet. But I think you're right. I think it has to color the direction of some of the personnel decisions now.
Oh, I agree for sure. And I mean, again, that's why I've been calling. I mean, I wish it would have happened before now. Again, I'm not trying to be mean to Spencer Rattler just because look, my son went off of me with this long diatribe of a text because he loves Spencer Rattler. And he's like, you've just been waiting for him to have a game like this. And the point was, and I never even responded. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I like Spencer Rattler. I think he's a great kid. But I just don't think he's a future NFL starting quarterback. He might be a fine backup quarterback, and I hope that he is. I hope that he's a part of this franchise going forward. But you need to know, if Tyler Shough ain't the answer, then go draft one. Or if it's better to find one in free agency, if you think you're that close. I mean, I'd rather draft one if there is one to draft. But man, it's a mess right now, and you've got to find out.
No question about it. And I think. Look, one thing we didn't talk about is the context of this, where Spencer Rattler turned the ball over 4 times in Chicago last week.
And then twice
in the first half this week. And so it's cumulative. Kellen Moore, you said, used the word spark in his post-game presser. I think that's really what it was like, look, we're just going nowhere fast. Maybe this is just the time to do it. Tyler Shough came on, and the comment earlier that they kind of look like the same QB. My impression of Tyler Shough, he missed a couple of throws that could have been better. He also was done no favors by his offensive line or receiving core or running game. They were in a bad situation, down 2 touchdowns. What's going on?
There's a report, and Matt Moscona is a person that I trust and has been on my show many a time, so I wouldn't just throw this out there saying something on the social media machine. But Matt Moscona is reporting from his sources that Brian Kelly has been fired, and that multiple sources have confirmed it, and that Frank Wilson will serve as the interim head coach.
Ross Dellinger, former Advocate sports writer, now with Yahoo Sports, is also reporting that. So this is happening. Brian Kelly has been fired. So this is the Saints Insider Postgame Show, but
what a weekend.
We're breaking some LSU news live here. So Brian Kelly is out at LSU after they lost to Texas A&M last night. We got a coaching search coming up in the college ranks and a QB switch in the pro ranks. So even in a losing year, never a dull moment here.
And that's why
South Louisiana.
I go back to 1999, and I say it again for history buffs or people who are old enough, old as I am, to remember this. Or you don't even need to be that old, I guess. If you're in your late 40s, you remember it too, or even mid 40s. I mean, if you go back to 1999 and think about where this area was as a franchise. The year after, Tulane went 12-0, as a matter of fact, and Tulane was the only good football team. They weren't as good in 1999, but here we are. LSU is going to be looking for a new head coach, and the Saints are a mess. And both teams. I mean, do you call a 5-3 team that's going to? At least you got to think at least LSU's in a decent enough place to where they can go forward and probably get better sooner rather than later. Not this year. I mean, this year is pretty much a wash. But
in college football, you can turn it around pretty darn quick. The right coach and the right players.
How much money are they going to be willing to spend on a coach? By the way, the fact they're going to be spending, unless they, negotiated some kind of settlement, which is a possibility. Even if you only pay $30 million, I mean, how much is the alumni and how much is a team like LSU going to be willing to go out and spend that kind of money to go get another coach of Brian Kelly's ilk? Do you go young? Do you go for a John Summerall type of coach? Maybe it's John Summerall himself. Is he ready for the big time? I don't know. Do you take that kind of risk? That didn't work out for Billy Napier in Florida. So you got a lot of things to discuss. Again, I know this is the Saints postgame show, but breaking news here. This is pretty big news. It's about, this doesn't happen very often when you talk about LSU making an in-season move. Obviously, Coach O didn't coach the bowl game, and Les Miles was a mess towards the end of his debacle.
That was the last time you had a midseason coach firing.
Right.
Was Les Miles.
So, and before that, you probably got to go back to, I don't even remember the last one before that.
I think we are probably going to cut this show a little short.
Yeah.
I know our reporters aren't out of the locker room yet, but I'm a deputy sports editor for the Advocate and the Times-Picayune. LSU fires the coach. We're going to have to cut it short. A couple more comments before we go. Robert Dickerson, am I biased, or does Chase Young get held on a lot of plays? I think a lot of good pass rushers get held on a lot of plays.
He also gets double teamed.
They only call the obvious ones, but Chase Young, look.
Who was that asked that?
Robert Dickerson. Chase Young's been really, really good since he came back from injury.
He's been really good, Robert. And I think if you watch, that's where they double team him because they know
they're either
the best.
Chipping him or they're
I mean, he's not just the best player on the defensive front. He's probably the best player on the field when he's out there. So I mean. That's going to put 2 men on.
Jason Benson, what does the cap situation look like?
Much better.
It gets much better next year.
Much better.
Saints will have some money to spend if they so choose, and it gets even better the year after that. So if they decide to cool their jets next year, 2027 would really be
and
full go.
It's actually when I say much better, I mean beyond. It's not just like okay, it went from absolutely horrendous to just bad. No, I actually think it's in pretty good, almost good shape going into next year. They'll have to manipulate things here and there, but it depends on what we've been talking about on whether they think that they can compete next year. This team is always going to think they compete, but realistically, do you think you're going to get yourself back in the mix next year, or how long do you want this rebuild to be? It's going to be a lot of questions to be asked, but to answer the cap question, for the first time in a long time, it's looking much better than it's looked in probably, I don't know, maybe a decade even. A long, long time.
Maybe even longer
They've
than
been kicking the can for a long time.
And that made sense when you thought you had legitimate playoff.
When Drew Brees' window is shortening.
Right. And even when you decided, we're going to go get Derek Carr and try to compete.
Correct.
Well, you want to do that. Matthew Paris is here, so we will talk to him real quick. Jim, we're going to let you go. And
see you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m.
Yeah, 11 a.m. to 2 tomorrow morning. We'll talk to Matt real quick before We sign off maybe a little early today, but Matt, 23-3 Bucks win. Tyler Shough in for the first time in at least in significant fashion. What were your thoughts after this one?
Yeah, I thought this was a game that was reflective of why Spencer Rattler lost the job. I mean, Kellen Moore has not named a starter for next week yet. It could still be possible that it's Rattler, but boy, I'd be pretty surprised. Just the last 2 weeks were a clear regression of him turning the ball over way too much. Some careless mistakes from his part. He kept emphasizing on the fumble, for instance, that he was supposed to hold it high and tight. Didn't do that, got sloppy with it. And that's just kind of what you're seeing is you're not seeing that crisp kind of efficient quarterback that you were seeing early in the season. And, the Saints have had 8 games here now with Rattler, 7.5 really. And now I think it's time to make a change.
Your impression based on listening to Kellen Moore and players, is this now a permanent change? I mean, is it Shough going forward?
Yeah,
I know they haven't said anything.
They haven't said anything. Spencer Rattler sounded like a man who, he said, I would keep doing my job and go, like, he seemed like a change was coming. And so, until it's official, you can't say for sure, but here's where the Saints are too. Like we've talked about this the entire season, Zach, is that, at some point they're going to have to see what they have. That started today really in earnest for the first time. And I think they just have to build on it to see if they can give him if it can give them a spark going down the stretch here.
Obviously a very small sample size. And one thing Kellen Moore and company will look for from Tyler Shough is growth. But what were your impressions of his quarter and a half out there today? He threw 30 passes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that he didn't really, they've talked so much about explosive plays needing to get more of those. That didn't really get there outside of, garbage time drive near the end. He had some nice throws, but, he had a turnover. One that really wasn't his fault. I mean, Chris Olave probably should have got to the ground quicker, or the defender
just don't get the ball ripped away from you.
Yeah, the defender made a nice play there. But, I think he handled the pressure okay. That was kind of the big thing with his that was the big question in the preseason is how was he going to handle the pressure from an NFL pocket? That was a problem for him big time in college. And then also it looked pretty shaky at times in the preseason, but he handled that okay. And I think that's kind of the signs of growth. He's talked so much about handling the scout team and the responsibilities that's come with that. I think that's one of the clear areas where maybe he's been a little bit more comfortable, even if it's not, exactly live football.
Yeah. All right. He's Matthew Paris. We're going to cycle through a couple more of our writers here quickly. Thanks, Matt, and bringing Luke Johnson on, another one of our beat writers. Luke, who's LSU hiring? I'm just kidding.
They can pay me if they want.
They can pay me to not work like they're paying Brian Kelly to not work now. I will accept that deal. Impressions of the Saints today, just before we get to the quarterback situation, the defense brought the juice. The offense brought whatever the opposite of that is.
A great effort from that defense today, man. They were really good. I mean, look, I know Tampa's missing a lot of guys, but I mean, Chase Young was cooking Tristan Wirfs, who's one of the best left tackles on planet Earth. I thought they contained that Tampa passing attack. They came up with almost 2 huge goal line stands where they had first and goal to 1, and they needed 8 plays to get the ball in the end zone. So great defensive performance, completely wasted by just a terrible offensive day.
Yeah, 4 turnovers again today, 2 of them by Spencer Rattler in the first half. Were you surprised at the timing of the switch to Tyler Shough?
A little bit, yeah. Like I thought they'd let Spencer finish the game out, but it had just been. It was, we were seeing more of the stuff that he had really avoided the first 6 weeks of the season. He took more. I think he had 3 sacks in the first half today. 2 more turnovers today. Yeah, that's 6 in the last 2 games. So I think in a vacuum, I would have thought they would have let Spencer finish the game out and let Tyler come in with a fresh week, a full week of preparation. Mm-hmm. But I think they kind of felt compelled, forced to make that decision when they did today.
Is your impression that this is now a permanent switch, but barring injury, of course?
It feels that way. But, I think if Tyler Shough goes out there and bombs for a couple of weeks, I think we could see Spencer back in. Yeah, I don't get the sense that Kellen Moore's like he said in the postgame. I don't think he's like the type of guy who wants to just flip-flop a lot. But it kind of feels like this is Shough's job now. We'll get like a official word from the team probably tomorrow on who they want to to name their starter going forward, but it feels like this is a Tyler Shough show now.
All right, we will talk much more about it this week. He's Luke Johnson, and we're going to let Rod Walker step on to wrap us up here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. I think Rod's discussing whether Mississippi State will have its own opening. Go ahead, Rod. Rod, we saw the Tyler Shough show for the first time. Small sample size, but what were your impressions of the rookie?
I mean, I thought he was okay. I mean, I don't think he did anything bad, and I think this is a team that, I mean, whatever he did, you probably weren't going to be any worse. Might not be any better either, but I think he's a guy that you can play the rest of the way or whatever and see how it goes. But I mean, nothing wowed me at all, but I wasn't disappointed. I thought he did okay.
Same question I asked Luke, but were you surprised by the timing of the switch?
No, I think that, I mean, you can just kind of tell the fan, and you don't make these decisions based on what the fans say, but you could tell they were getting a little restless. They were kind of starting to boo, and I think this was probably a good time to do it because you get to do it at home. You probably don't want his first, rep to be on the road maybe. So I thought the time was okay. I know Kellen Moore said after the game that he didn't name either one of them to start for next week, but I think at this point you probably just stick with Shough, but we'll see how it plays out this week.
Any other thoughts to wrap things up? I mean, this was a dreary day in the Dome. The Saints defense obviously kept this respectable, but this is just not a good football team right now.
Yeah, it's just not good, and I think we've kind of known that, and today just kind of reaffirmed it for us. You look around, I mean, the Dome was kind of empty. I mean, a lot of empty seats in here. It looked kind of like Tiger Stadium last night, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, the fan base is a little frustrated. This team is 1-7 now, probably 1-8 next week, this time next week. Just not a – I mean, they're in a rebuild, and I think today was just a reminder that this is a rebuild. It's going to take a little while to get out of it, and this is who they are, and not going to win a lot of games the rest of the way. Although the schedule lightens up, once you get the Jets and Titans and,
Panthers
those
twice.
Panthers, yeah, I mean, it lightens up a little bit, but, maybe they'll get a win or two, but, I mean, they're still not very good regardless of what the final record says.
Nope. And as of today, as we said, the Saints would have the number one pick in next year's NFL draft if the season ended now. So we'll be tracking that, quite honestly. And with that said, that will do it for the Saints Insider post-game show. My thanks to Jim Derry, Matthew Paris, Luke Johnson, Rod Walker for coming by. Norman Bell ran the camera. Spencer Urquhart produced the show. And if you want, you can flip over to our LSU Insider YouTube channel. I think we're going to do a live reaction to Brian Kelly's firing as soon as I get back upstairs to the press box and can get that set up. So flip over there and look for that. Until then, thank you for watching and good night.